You can rant right now at 860-751-4698 on the Todd Feinberg Show.
It's WTIC, Monday afternoon. Monday. Joining us right now is Rob Sampson, state senator from Wolcott. It's nice to talk with Rob whenever we get to talk with Rob because it's always a moment of sanity. Hey there, Rob.
Hey there, Todd. Glad to join you this afternoon.
So I don't know. You should drive the conversation. I don't know what the big thing is in your mind. We haven't talked in a while.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been super busy the past couple of days. I mean, I think number one is probably this Bridgeport issue. I don't know if you've been following what happened in the primary election there.
Yeah, same thing as last time, right?
Yeah, and one of the candidates has released video that apparently was leaked from the Bridgeport Police Department.
I love that video. You're talking about the ballot box stuffing?
That's exactly correct, yes. Alleged ballot box stuffing.
Well, it doesn't look alleged to me. It looks like
I would say
it looks like that sucker is being stuffed.
Yeah, Todd, by the way, I'm getting so much feedback talking to you. I can hear it myself. I don't know if you can do anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting a little funny sound. I think you just have to suck it up.
Okay, I'll suck it up.
Are you on any headsets or weird devices?
I am talking to you on my cell phone.
That's it. Okay, that's a weird device, but let's just run with it and do the best we can.
Well, it's all they have now since they outlawed house phones.
That's true.
So I'll just go down the path of the Bridgeport thing, which is, I was just consulting with my dear colleague, Representative Master Francesco, this morning, and our only reaction is we told you so. Year after year, Gail and I go before the legislature, both in committee and on the House of floor and Senate, and try and convince our colleagues, that this massive expansion of the absentee voting without proper protocols in place is dangerous. And this is just proof of that. Everything, including drop boxes. We advocated to monitor drop boxes. And that's the best part of this thing for me is that in Bridgeport, they actually do monitor the drop boxes. And that's why we have this evidence.
So this evidence is a woman being shown at, what time is it? Is it like 5:40 in the morning or something when she's doing this?
Yeah, she allegedly made 3 separate trips to the ballot drop box and put in numerous documents. We can't tell what they are, obviously, from the distance. And then she handed the documents in a 4th case and sent someone else out to put them in the box. And I'll tell you, just the state law is very clear that the only time you can even handle an absentee ballot for someone is you're allowed as a relative to maybe put their ballot in the box, but that's it.
Just to put this in context for people,
there at 5 in the morning.
I just wanted, Rob, I just wanted to provide some context here with regard to the whole premise of where the discussion is nationally and in the state on election rigging of any kind, that anybody does anything. The standard mantra we hear from Democrats and from the media is that there's no such thing as ballot fraud, except in the idiosyncratic occasional manner. But in Bridgeport, it seems to be a routine. And if you look at what happened in the last mayoral election 4 years ago, it appears to have been an election that was tampered with because you had, what's her name, the state senator, Porter?
No, it's Marilyn Moore.
Oh, Marilyn Moore. I'm sorry. And it appears that Marilyn Moore won on the machine election, and then on paper ballots she gets overwhelmed, and the mayor is reelected in Bridgeport. And this time the same thing happened again. Is there anything on its face that's fishy about that?
Well, one thing I'll tell you is that the CT Insider, which is an online publication, they broke the story at the beginning of the month about how the state's attorney is going to actually take up an investigation into the 2019 election. But what's fascinating is that one of the 3 people named that will be investigated is the same person in question doing the Dropbox dumps this time.
Wow. Okay,
so that's pretty fishy.
Yeah. So the whole idea that we hear regularly that there's no, in the state or nationally, there's no such thing as tampering with elections. But if you look at the amazing expansion of the absentee ballot and early voting prerogatives that voters have, that is paper ballots that are handled outside of the jurisdiction of the voting officials, election officials, that you look at it and you say, why are they so motivated about this? Why is this so important to them? And you have to figure it's important because it's soft and pliable and you can manipulate it. And if you look at Bridgeport sort of proves the point, because the Democrats are fighting with Democrats now in consecutive elections over accusations that the Democrats are using paper ballots to cheat.
Yes, it's so remarkable, Todd, on so many levels. I can't even tell you. We just mentioned Senator Moore a moment ago, a very nice lady. I served with her. You know, we worked together on several committees and so forth. But she has stood up in the Senate and voted against my amendments to stop this exact type of corruption from occurring. And it just boggles the mind why. But that's because they will not undermine the national and state Democrat agenda, which is designed to loosen up the election process to allow for these types of things to occur, even at their own expense, apparently. And it is incredibly frustrating for me because, as you said, the Democrats certainly try and paint anyone that poses any questions or suggests that we need more integrity or security in the election as a crackpot, but so has the news media. You know, the news media has been going after me for years, despite the fact that I have resisted the argument, Trump won the 2020 election, all that. I try and stick to Connecticut, and I try and stick to things that I can actually verify and document. But yet they try and say that I'm out there boldly suggesting fraud where it doesn't exist. And that's why I started this conversation by saying, we told you so, because this is, once it's proven anyway, and I think it will be proof that what we said can happen does, in fact, happen.
So what's going to take place with this scandal that's going on in Bridgeport right now? Any thoughts on that?
That's a really good question because, as you pointed out, there's been questions about the 2019 election ever since then. And it's taken until a month ago for the State Election Enforcement Commission to make a recommendation to the state's attorney's office to begin a proper investigation. But clearly, this is becoming big news. This video is going to be nationwide, I suspect, is within the next couple of days, and there'll be no choice. They're going to have to look into it, and that's a good thing. Thank heavens we can get some sunlight shining on the Connecticut election process. You know, what's confusing about this is that other states actually do successfully do mail-in voting. I don't like it. I think in-person voting is the best way. That's the way we should do things. But other states that have mail-in voting, at least they put an effort into trying to make it work. They put security protocols in. They have signature verification. They monitor the drop boxes in every case. In Connecticut, we have very little of that. And the Democrats acknowledge it. Martin Looney, the president of the Senate, the most powerful Democrat in the legislature, has said on the floor of the Senate, quote unquote, you never really know who's touching an absentee ballot. I mean, you know, what more further proof do you need? We're going to continue to have these kinds of questions and problems about elections going forward when these news stories continue to pop up. And whether any wrongdoing is found or not, the damage is done because people in our state and maybe people across the country don't trust our elections the way they once did.
We're talking with Rob Sampson, state senator from Wolcott. What else do you see here that needs to be interpreted for the eyes of the general public?
That the Democrats are driven by this notion that if they loosen up elections enough, they can get their voters out. And I think that's been their problem in elections for a long time, which is that Republican voters are reliable. They have a tendency to show up even in bad weather under tough circumstances. And Democrat voters don't necessarily put as much emphasis on it. So they're always trying to find ways to allow their team or their ground game to help with the rigging.
Well, it seems like there's plenty of people available wanting to help with the rigging. Like endless amounts. Is there any chance that, do you think this only takes place in Bridgeport, or do you think that it's going on elsewhere, but that Democrats are more, because there's been Democrat against Democrat election theft allegations, that's given more edge to it in Bridgeport and it gets more publicity?
I think it happens on some scale pretty much widespread. I don't think it's a grand scale, though. I don't think that there are hundreds of thousands of votes being stolen in the state of Connecticut. But it wouldn't surprise me if there are small-scale, dozen, 100 votes here and there in various municipalities when you have a lot of people that are in positions where they can work together with other people that are in power. You know, these folks are almost all involved in city government. You know, the woman in question works for the city of Bridgeport. You know, so who does she know? Who is she working with? I mean, these are all important questions. I think it does happen in a lot of places. But if you have strong candidates who are monitoring their own elections and actually put people in place, like I have around 30 polling locations in a Senate district, and we actually place people inside these polls and we monitor what's going on. Now, that doesn't mean I can monitor what's going on at 5 a.m. at every drop box.
Right.
So it's hard to know. But good candidates are preventing fraud on their own right. But the process is what needs to be fixed.
Okay. Is there anything else you want us to know about that story?
No.
Okay. Anything else you want us to know about something else?
I'll just say one other word, which is that I've been working on something regarding the transfer of firearms. I don't know if you've heard about this or if you had any callers call in. But recently, the state of Connecticut Department of Public Safety has said that they are no longer going to allow person-to-person private transfers. And I've heard back from them, and they're arguing that the federal government is saying that can no longer happen, that every private transfer of firearm has to go through a dealer. And this is a huge concern for me because this could be an impediment to such a transfer. Now, the dealer's obviously going to want to earn some kind of money for doing the transfer. They might decline to do it for some reason. And this is going to obviously affect people's Second Amendment right. So that's a concern of mine.
All right, hold on a sec if you can, because I want to learn more about that. And I think people will want to know more. Rob Sampson is with us, Rob, state senator from Wolcott. We will talk more about the gun issue and then take some phone calls when we continue on WTIC.
Now, back to the Todd Feinberg Show, live from the NJ Diet Studios on WTIC. News Talk 1080.
Rob Sampson is state senator from Wolcott. So tell us about this gun issue again. Oh, sorry, Rob. Hang on a sec. I've got to put you on the air, don't I? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been hearing from several of my constituents recently, Todd, that they've been told by the State Department of Public Safety that they can no longer do a private transfer of a firearm. In other words, you and I could not buy and sell a gun from one another. And the current process is that is perfectly lawful, although in Connecticut we have, quote unquote, universal background checks, which I pointed out many times, including on your program, are not really universal. They're voluntary because you actually have to come forward, fill out the paperwork, and do the background check. Unlike criminals who are simply going to meet, at a parking lot 3 a.m. or something like that, and in between putting ballots in the ballot box, they'll do their private gun exchange. The thing here is that they're saying now that can no longer happen. That if you and I want to exchange a firearm,
but you're saying the state,
we got to go to the dealer.
You're saying the state controlling agency is saying that, and that they're getting this as a directive from some federal agency?
Well, that's new news because all I knew up until an hour ago was they were telling Connecticut residents that they had to use a licensed firearms dealer and they could no longer process a background check between two citizens. Now I've got a response from them after writing a letter a few days ago, and they are saying that the FBI is the one telling them that. So I've got a little bit work to do to find out exactly what's going on, and I'm not going to get in because I think the statute that was passed after that terrible tragedy in Sandy Hook that gave us universal background checks made it perfectly lawful for a person-to-person transaction to do a background check without a dealer.
Okay, so this needs some looking into because it sounds kind of not like the American system of government what you're describing.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, first off, it's creating an impediment for people to exchange firearms, which I think is an infringement on the Second Amendment. And the other issue is that it's completely counterintuitive to what the Democrats claim they want. They say they want universal background checks, but now here they're going to make it more difficult for people to participate in a background check. I'm hopeful that a little common sense conversation, we might get this sorted out without having to go to, the mat in the legislature. But I'm prepared to do whatever is needed to make it happen. And I just wanted your listeners, many of whom I know are big Second Amendment supporters, to know that there is someone looking into this, and I'm not going to let it go.
All right, report back and let us know, okay?
I shall.
Rob Sampson, State Senator from Wolcott. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Always my pleasure, Todd. Thanks.
All righty.